Hello, my name is Marcus, and welcome to my channel. The Last of Us and The Last of Us Part 2, the amazing PlayStation video game franchise that has been adapted into the HBO Max television series. You know, I thought I had already had all of my emotions processed from playing through these games and watching season 1 of the series, and I thought by the time we got to the clinical part of the television series of part 2, witnessing Joe's death, I thought my emotions would be able to handle it without much issue. But to be completely honest, it has been weighing on my mind for the past couple of days now. I mean, since I watched the credit scenes to that episode. And I tell you what, Pedro Pascal and his fellow actresses did an amazing job of portraying the scene that essentially destroyed so many gamers across the pantheon of society across the world, man. You know, never have I seen a main casted character video game get killed off so early in the sequel. But I tell you what, I've seen plenty of diagnostics of the scene and the motivation of Abby and why she did what she did, and the motivation of Joe of why he did what he did. I kind of want to take a bit of a different approach. This has been covered before as well, but I kind of want to tackle just the revenge plot of Abby and Ellie and Joel, respectively, just trying to understand all three portrayals, all 3 points of view, starting with Joe specifically. Some people look at Joe as being completely evil for what he did to the Fireflies, but I just want to try to understand the psychological motivations of why he had to take out every member of the Fireflies to save Ellie's life. I think the issue arises of how the Fireflies presented the situation. I think if they would have given Ellie a choice on whether or not she wanted to sacrifice her life or not to provide an antidote to mankind, I think maybe, her and Joel could have had that conversation together and determine or not on whether or not they wanted to allow the sacrifice to happen. But the fact that the Fireflies hid it from them, or hid it from Ellie at least, and put her to sleep, it was just going to do it without her consent. I think that revelation is what set Joel off to push him into taking them all out and saving her. It sucks that, he had to do it in such a gruesome way. Sucks that he had to take out the only doctor that had the skills to perform the surgery to produce the antidote. But I think that, from a father's perspective, if I try to put myself in Joe's perspective, would I sacrifice that many lives to save my own daughter? You better believe it. That's a fascinating question of trying to understand, what would you do in that situation? Would you sacrifice all of mankind to save the most important person of your life, especially if you've experienced that pain of losing a child before? Fortunately, my life has not pushed me towards those emotions, so I don't know the emotions of losing a child. I would assume that it is the worst pain imaginable in life. I've recently lost a parent. So, I mean, if I had anything to compare it to, that hole that you have in your heart, that sense of grief, suffering, pain, and loss, it's unlike anything I've ever experienced in my life before. So I would think that since Joe has experienced that before, and being able to develop that new relationship with Ellie to kind of not replace Sarah, the daughter that he lost, but establishing the best next thing, and having that love threatened, potentially having to go through that grief and that pain once again. There's only so much that one man can bear, and even, experiencing that thought process is enough to push even the most decent people over the edge and commit the most worst atrocities that any one human could commit. It is what it is. It's definitely an undertaking that I understand 1000%. Shout out to Pedro Pascal for portraying the inevitable in the acceptance that he knew that he was about to die once he got that shotgun blast to the leg. And even trying to listen to Abby's revenge speech and wanting him to understand that why she was about to torture him to death, and him screaming out, "Oh, just shut the fuck up and get on with it." Just brilliant writing. It was not exactly the same that how the scene was portrayed in the video game. I believe, if I remember correctly, it was whatever speech you had planned, just said and let's get this over with. It's just why are we even wasting time? Not to make a light of this type of a situation, but definitely I feel like if I was put in that specific situation, I feel like I would be the same thing. Why are we dragging this out? Let's just get on with it so that we can get it over with. This is one of those franchises that I tend to not talk about a whole lot on the internet until now, because the internet tends to get really stupid about this franchise, at least about Ellie's sexuality, to her real life actress portrayal, to Abby's portrayal and her motivations, even though I feel like she was fully justified in her actions against Joe. I mean, he did kill her dad, even though her dad was kind of wrong, and he was going to sacrifice a life to try to save humanity. I mean, it's kind of inhumane, but I guess living in during times of the apocalypse, I guess, certain sacrifices would need to be made in that type of situation. Just not my kid. You're just not going to do it. Honestly, I think Bella is doing a wondrous job of portraying Ellie. At least she did in season 1, and she has also so far in season 2. I think one of the stupidest comments that I've seen so far is, why is Bella as Ellie cursing so much? Where clearly you just didn't play the game at all, where Ellie cursed every 5 seconds. But I think she's really a great actress, and she's doing a good job. And just seeing all the hatred that she's getting on the internet, I don't know, it just pisses me off. The last thing I wanted to do is to turn this video into defending the actors and actresses here, because it's a good show. It's already won awards. The proof is in the pudding. I mean, if you don't like it, you don't like it. But if you don't like it, then why do you keep watching it? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Now, speaking of Ellie, her going on her revenge plot against Abby after, Joel's death makes perfect sense to me. That essentially was her father figure, even though they had been estranged for quite some time, because he did lie to her, as we know, about what happened to the Fireflies and how he was forced to save her from them. The only thing about Ellie's story that still kind of rubs me the wrong way, I kind of wish that they would have given the player the choice at the final confrontation between Abby and Ellie, if you wanted to go ahead and take her out or to spare her. I think it would have held a little bit more of a power within the story if they would have given you the choice, kind of like a Ghost of Tsushima situation. I think the canon ending should still end up being her sparing Abby, but still, it would have been cool if they would have at least given the choice so that all players could be satisfied with their decision on whether or not to what they wanted to do. I'll tell you what, though, I'd be lying if I didn't say that I was very entertained in seeing everybody's new reaction to the TV series Joe's Death, where, like I said, I've already processed these specific emotions like years ago when I played through the games. I've already seen numerous people comment under my own personal timeline on Facebook like, I'm done watching this show. If Joe's not here, I don't want to watch it. Then I've had to go in and be like, bro, you don't give up so soon. He might be gone in the physical in the present, but he's not gone from the show completely if they still follow the lingo of the video game. So stay tuned. So definitely feel some confidence in being able to inform people of that notion for sure. So while I still have your attention, let's go ahead and let's talk about Abby for a bit. Certainly not my favorite character at all whatsoever. I don't think I hate her as much as most people do. Definitely saying that I like her is a completely false statement, especially being forced to play as her for so much of the game. But it is cool to kind of see it from her perspective. I am curious. I don't think they ever explained if she knew the details surrounding why Joel did what he did. I don't know. I'm curious if she knew the details that Ellie would have had to die for them to find the antidote. I wonder if she was informed that her father had and Marlene had come to that decision to carry out that mission. I mean, I get it. It still sucks that, the two most important people in her life was killed by Joe. So, I mean, she's still somewhat justified in her actions from a divine kind of animalistic sense of justice. But it just, I would still like to see her reaction if she like knew that bit of information, and maybe she did, maybe she just didn't care. I'm just curious. I think for my final thought from a therapeutic perspective, because it's almost like I'm making this video just to get my own personal thoughts out. I mean, if y'all are enjoying it, hey, listen, I appreciate you. Hit that like button for me. That would be cool. But I think the final thought that I want to get out is Ellie sparing Abby again. I think what she saw when she was drowning her is she kind of saw in Lev and Abby what Joel and herself had. It's almost like Abby had taken a role to Lev, kind of similar to what Joel had taken as a role to Ellie herself. So I think her realizing that, and then seeing that final frame of Joe playing his guitar, and then kind of just giving her that wink of improvement, like, hey, like you don't have to do this. I think what you've already done, what you've already sacrificed, hey, your soul is already so damaged. I think if you carry out this one final act, even though you've already killed pretty much every person that this girl has held sacred, I think if you do this one final act, I think that would be the detriment of your complete soul being destroyed. So I think you should just let them go, because of course, if you kill Abby, Lev is pretty much good as dead as well. So just that root of that sacrifice, and that being able to let that revenge go, even though it still hurts so much, just her being able to let that go is just a really brilliant display of the human emotion. It's brilliant storytelling. It was such a risk, even though at the beginning of the video, as I said, that it kind of pissed me off a bit. I kind of like to play that double agent and explore it from both perspectives. And what we see at the very end is just such a brilliant storytelling. And I think that's why, it ended up winning Game of the Year that year. And I cannot wait to see those emotions get displayed on screen as well. I don't think we see that until season 3. Probably, if I had to take an educated guess, season 2 is probably going to end. And the confrontation at the theater, when, I won't spoil what happens, but yeah, I think if you play the game, then you know what's going to go down there. I think it also would be foolish to not mention that in their quest for revenge, Ellie and both Abby lost everything. Abby essentially lost everybody she ever loved and everything other than Lev in her quest to take out Joel and to defend herself from Ellie. In Ellie's quest for revenge, she eventually lost everybody that she ever cared about to either death or just through her crusade of going for revenge in itself. So maybe at the end of the day, going for revenge might cure something within the own mental psyche, but isn't worth losing everything else that you hold sacred in your life to potentially correct this one inadequacy to, take out a person or group that, wronged you so inhumanely. I think the most fascinating aspect of this discussion for myself is kind of looking within myself is like, would I have a dark demon side within my own psyche to be able to carry out those types of atrocities if my loved ones were threatened? Who do we know personally that you think would be able to do these types of things if they were just forced to such a brink of darkness that they just didn't have a choice? Who do you know that would just lay down and die and just take it and just accept the inevitable? And who do you know that would fight to the end and just do whatever they had to do to survive, do whatever they had to do to complete that revenge, do whatever they had to do to find that animalistic divine justice that was deserved in so many aspects from so many different perspectives of this story? I would like to say that I know what I would do if I was ever put into an animalistic situation like that, but I don't think we know for sure until we're actually put there Fortunately, throughout the duration of my life, I have never been pushed to that brink of insanity. I have experienced grief, loss, suffering, like I stated at the beginning, but hopefully, I never have to experience that type of pain. I can only imagine what that type of psyche could do to the human mind. It's insane, honestly. I mean, at the end of the day, we have to assume that Joe and Tommy Miller would have been decent human beings if it not were for these the situations that they were placed into. You would automatically think that Ellie would have been a decent human being if she was not placed in this, archaic life that she was placed into. Same with Abby. You would think that deep down they all wanted to be somewhat decent people, but their circumstances just forced them to, explore the darkest parts of their own personalities, the darkest part of the human society, to simply survive. And I'll end it right there. Okay. If you enjoyed the video, if you enjoyed my thoughts on this, do me a favor, hit that like button. I would really appreciate it. If you want to see more content just like this, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, man. You can follow me at youtube.com/margex79. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see y'all on the next one. I'll catch y'all later. Bye.